I'm drawing a couple of windows on the top floor of a Paris apartment block. So firstly, just outlining the decorative frame that surrounds the opening in the wall for the windows. They're set back some distance, and each window has 6 panes of glass held in place by wooden strips and a little balcony in front. Then there's a protruding cornice and there's a downpipe alongside. And then above one of the windows, there's a little dormer window that has a little triangular pediment on top, and a similar but smaller window sits within that. And I've nicely captured the basics, but it does have a very two-dimensional look. So let's try drawing this same section of this building in Paris again, making it look a little less flat, making it look more three-dimensional. And then we'll have a look to see how it is exactly that we've accomplished that. So the most obvious thing that you'll see as I draw this a second time is that I'm using more lines, quite a few more lines, but it's not just throwing lines around randomly. There are certain spots I need to put them, but it is going to take a little more time. So I'll put the second window in. I'm just putting lines in, and again, the most obvious thing is that there are simply more lines, and those additional lines are very important in creating a sense of three dimensions. And then there's that cornice above, and then we get to the dormer window. You'll see that there are more lines being drawn than in our first cartoon-like two-dimensional version of this same scene. So we'll just finish this dormer window, and again you can see that there's a few more lines here than we had, and not just in the window. And then when we finish that, we'll have a look and see exactly how do these extra lines work. Why are they important in creating a three-dimensional effect? What difference do they bring to our drawing that take it out from being cartoon-like and make it look a lot more lifelike? In flat two dimensions, objects have a width and a length. And that's everything you need for a flat object. But to have three dimensions, an object has to have depth. And this depth line is the one that we have to make sure we draw if an object is to look three-dimensional. And it's often very tempting or easy to miss out this third-dimensional line, particularly if the depth is not very great. And yet if we do, we end up with this very flat effect where it's like our windows have become like tape stuck on to the walls, and our window frames, the parts that support the glass, again, it looks more like tape that's just placed over the glass rather than a three-dimensional piece of wood that holds it in place. But if we put all these extra depth lines in, even when it's a very thin amount, it creates a three-dimensional form. And that's also important because it gives us somewhere to put tone if we're applying shading. Because in two dimensions, there's nowhere to put tone. But in three dimensions, there is. And so, if we want to apply tone to our work, there's somewhere for it to go, somewhere for it to sit. And all of this helps to create a much more three-dimensional effect. But if we haven't drawn the third dimension, if we haven't put in the depth lines, there's nowhere for the tone to go. When we compare our two drawings of this section of the Paris apartment side by side, we can see the great difference that drawing the depth lines adds to the overall effect. How these little lines and the additional line that joins them on to give that extra side really creates a roundedness that pops the form visually into 3 dimensions. And whether it's the framing work around the windows or the windows themselves set back in deep from the outside of the wall, whether it's little cornice work around the top of the dormer, it all adds to a picture of 3-dimensionality. And of course, it gives us a place to put our tone work if we want to add ink or even just hatch in. To add our depth lines in a scene such as this, we do end up drawing more lines very close together, some of them which are quite long. And that's a skill that sometimes we need to work to develop, but we will never get there if we don't try to add them. And it's certainly worth doing our best to add the depth lines. Hi, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope that was helpful. People often comment that I do a really good job with creating a sense of 3 dimensions, and really I think it comes down to observing very carefully and looking for where are the indications of depth in my reference or in real life. Where are the extra lines that show that something goes back in this place on this side, and exactly from this viewpoint on which side of my objects, left hand, right hand, upper, lower, where can I see that depth? Looking for those details and then simply adding them to my drawing is really what's involved. Now, I guess I'm fortunate, I really love those details. I love finding them, I love drawing them. I think it's worth it. So give it a go. Look extra hard to see them and work extra hard to fit them in. And of course, the most important thing is to have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.